Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast.
Welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here. It's Lindsay Simsick and Krista Williams, my best friend of 10 years, baby.
Greetings.
What are we going to do for our 10-year anniversary?
Well, it was funny because it was your birthday and we were reflecting on how it's like when you're dating and when you first start dating, you like go hard in the paint on every holiday and anniversary.
This was us in 2000, what would we say, like 17?
Yeah.
We would run birthday campaigns.
Fully dedicated episodes where we would have like every single person we've ever met in our life call in and do a 2-minute long voice note. Like it was like the most romantic thing ever.
On Instagram, we would have like a full slider series, a story, then we would like obviously give each other gifts and like send food and like just make sure every part of the day we had our stamp on the other's birthday.
It was taken care of. Breakfast, it was like, and now it's like, I remember that with my parents, they were married for 30 years and they're now divorced, but my mom would be like, here's socks at Christmas. And I'd be like, what's up with them? And now like, I get it. Like, I was like, that makes so much sense. My dad does need socks.
You called me, you FaceTimed me and I was like, what's up? You're like, happy birthday. I was like, thanks. I love you. What are you doing?
Dude, but something about me lately is a new journey that I'm on is not being as good of a friend as I am used to being. And I forgot about two of the most important people. I forgot both of their birthdays this year. And I'm like, fuck.
Also, I think you've been an incredible friend for a very long time. And so
that's what I said.
I think there's room to swing a little bit and also not be perfect and see where friendships settle with that.
As exactly. I was like, you know what? I put in my time.
Yeah.
I was fully everyone's number one for 4 years. And I'm like, okay, I'm logging off.
Yeah.
People can be disappointed by me.
And it doesn't mean you don't love them. Like,
there was another friend I overcommitted to something that I didn't end up doing. And I was like, yeah. I said I'd do that thing and I didn't do that thing.
I remember it being when we were in that era, 2016, 17, whatever, where we were like really going full hard with that stuff. It was kind of stressful because you wanted it to be the best and you wanted to make sure the other person was like, is this good enough?
No, 100%. Like, I don't know what was driving us.
I have no idea. Maybe it was also like candidly because we're also public.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's
so
true.
It's like, let me show you.
That's true.
Because we are genuinely best friends, but like, let's show everybody.
Yeah.
Just in case you aren't convinced that we are best friends and this is how we celebrate
That's so real. That's so real.
You know what I mean?
I definitely can't wait to have an assistant that like has everybody's, you know what I mean? Like is just running my life for that behind the scenes.
Yes.
And is my second brain of taking care of everyone's flowers and everyone's like. Also, I'm just like, I need everyone to send me a calendar invite telling me when their birthday is so I don't forget. So I can, because how are we supposed to remember?
I know. I have a brain.
I literally Googled your name and birthday to make sure that I had the day right like 2 weeks before.
I have a few like good friends where I'm like, I know your birthday's the first week of December. And I do the same thing where I'm like, I need to just really confirm.
Yes.
I have a good like memory with like, I know if you give me the month of September, I'll tell you all of my friends that have birthdays in September. And I'll probably be able to give you the date, but there's a few that might be shaky. But I need to have a master list.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be nice to just,
Well, it's crazy that your birthday and Caitlin's birthday is the same day.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
My childhood best friend. You guys had the same birthday, which is insane. Easy. And then there's Danielle's.
Danielle's is the third. See, this is what I do.
I just messaged her. I was like, hey, babe, it's around this time.
Yeah.
I was also in Europe, so I had like a little flexibility with stuff.
I think it's the 12th.
Yeah,
it's the 12th.
The 12th or something like that.
My best friend Michelle's birthday is the 11th.
Of September?
Uh-huh. And I have a few cousins who have birthdays. I have my parents' anniversry, and then I have, I'm like...
Parents' anniversary. Okay, oldest. Get a freaking life. Oh, God.
Happy anniversary.
Do you say happy anniversary to them?
Yeah.
That's sweet.
I didn't get them anything, but...
What did they do for it?
They went into the city and like spent the night in the city and went out to dinner.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, 39 years.
Wow. So today's episode, you guys, listen up, listen in, get close. I want you to hear me clearly. I love this episode. And this episode is very vulnerable.
Mm.
It was recorded a bit ago. And I'm crying in it. I'm so grateful for her because I had 4 interviews that day, back to back to back. And she was the first. And it was one of those where I was very much in a process. And I was like, I can compartmentalize, but there's sometimes with some things where it's very hard for me to not, whatever's going on, I'm going to say, no matter the conversation. If you're my Uber driver, if you're my barista, if you're my friend, we're going to be talking about what I'm thinking right now. And so she came over and I was very much in a process of falling in love again for the first time since my marriage and being so scared and having so much more come up than I thought and having so much more fear come up than I thought. And just being like, oh my God, it's so wild to me because you think falling in love, you're like, you have an idea of it from when you're younger and it is that, but it's also not because you have so much more fear. So it's so interesting because I didn't think that it would feel like this. And it's felt so good, but there's also so much fear. And so I just was like processing fear with her. And like, she was amazing.
What's the journey been? Because I know you recorded that a little while ago. So like, how do you view that fear now? Or has it changed in how you viewed it?
How do I view it now? I feel like it was whatever I was feeling was warranted and real because of the situation that I was in and how things evolved.
Yeah.
And so it was a worthwhile fear to be curious about. I think also I just had more come up around an anxious feeling than I thought of like, whoa, because then it can go away. And also when you've been married, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but in my experience was falling in love and then having it change in a way that wasn't good.
Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, when is this going to change? When is this going to, whatever. And it's so crazy because I'm looking, there's a butterfly right there in that picture. And there's a butterfly on that liqueur, which is very weird.
Whoa.
That there's literally 2 butterflies that I just looked at. Yeah. So how do I view it? Yeah. It's just the game of life.
I know.
You got to play it. But she was very, very powerful for that. So if anyone is looking to get into relationship or partnership or looking to fall in love again after heartbreak, I guess, or after a breakup or a divorce, this one's a really helpful one. I'm hopeful that what I shared is helpful for you. Or you can just be, entertained by the inside of my life. And then, and for update on that, all is well. All is well and I'm happy. And then the second part was so fucking fascinating. We talked about beauty and appearance, and I don't know how we started talking about it, but I think we were talking about what she's working on with herself in therapy, and she's like getting older and processing getting older. And if you are someone that has leveraged or valued beauty or valued physical appearance, and I think everyone does to a certain extent, but I think some people have it as more a part of their identity. Or more part of their like value system or value set. And she was just like, it's been really hard to get older. It's been really hard to like age. It's been really hard to do that. And she's like really processing that. So we were talking about like the burden of beauty, the benefit of beauty, and just like how culture and society sees beauty, how we see beauty. And it was just fascinating to be really honest about the impact that beauty would have on someone's life, both positively and negatively, to be honest. And just like the psyche of it all.
I mean, I can imagine it's almost like there's like a tipping point and it's different for every person depending on the physical manifestation of the aging.
Yeah.
It could happen sooner for someone else. It could happen in different ways, like just depends. But I think that I've definitely experienced that where I'm like, how do I feel about this? Like when I look in the mirror and see something, whether it's like wrinkles on my forehead or, my body changing or whatever it is, it's like, how do I how do I feel about this? How do I want to feel about this? And usually they're different,
Totally. It's real.
And then I'm like, how much am I going to let it like really take a hold on my mind today? Every day's a little bit different. I just have hope in like, all the things that we can do, whether surgically, naturally, what we put in our bodies, whatever alchemy you choose in your life will support us in a way that it will keep us like cellularly feeling really good in our bodies so that whatever changes won't be such a mind fuck.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if we're not like really healthy on a cellular level, I'm sure all of the other stuff happening too will almost be like both happening at once is like really intense. But if you are like young in your body's composition, younger than what your biological or your true age is, I don't know. I feel like that could have an effect on like how your brain processes it all. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about it because I feel like I've obviously gotten older. Each day I'm getting older. It was interesting. Recently I was on my trip and I was like, whoa, I had a photo shoot with our photographer and I was like, I actually looked and I was like, wow, I look older. It was like the first time I think in my life where I was like, wow, what's this? And it was interesting to me. I was like, this is interesting. I don't know. It was like, I'm an adult woman. Like, I don't know. So I'm having a trippy eclipse time thing. So yeah, I think honestly, I'll probably need help processing that. I don't, to be honest, I'm really good with so much stuff in my life. I feel so processed and so clear and confident, but I'll probably struggle with that.
Yeah.
I'll probably be, and everyone could look at me and be like, yeah, you a bitch, but I probably will. That'll be hard for me.
Yeah.
When I'm older.
I think also it's like an existential thing for me sometimes too, where I maybe it's now that I have a kid where I'm like, it's like a weird, I don't want to die feeling.
Of course.
But also I'm like, God is good. Like when I go from here to eternity, like hopefully I go to heaven and like, it'll be, better than anything. But like I do, if I'm being honest, I guess you would call it a fear of death. Not a true, like I fear dying every day, but like, I don't want to die.
Hell yeah, girl. Talk that talk.
Do you know what I mean?
Hit him with it.
No, but there are a lot of people who are like, whether it's incredibly Christian or whatever, who are like, if I die tomorrow, I'm good. And I'm not quite there yet. And I think aging kind of equals we're getting closer to that for me. So I get like a little like sad where I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, I'm just like, whoa, like this was my life. And I don't know, I could get very existential and very like mercurial right now. Just to be like, this soul chose this body in this lifetime. And this is a lifetime that I've existed in. And I had so many memories and did all this stuff. And it's like, that was all of it. And then it's here. And
I know.
That is so wild.
I hope someone clips this.
I know, honestly, like we are not high. Like we're microdosing again, FYI, guys. We're back on. We're
Two
back
girls on a podcast talk about nothing.
Dude, honestly, we're back on the shrooms. Okay, you guys, seriously, I think you're going to love this one. I am obsessed with Dr. Molly. I actually heard of her from Organic Olivia, my dear homie. She's like, yo, you have to have her on, Dr. Molly Burrets. She was amazing. She was on What's the Juice podcast, which we've been on a few times of our dearest Olivia. So her name is Dr. Molly. She is a relationship and mental health expert. She's a psychologist. So she actually does relationships and women's mental health. And we talked a lot about relationships because she's a relationship therapist. And then we talked about beauty. We talked about aging. We talked a lot about like what the fears are that come up in new relationship. And I just think you guys are going to love it. So I hope you guys enjoy. You can find Dr. Molly Burrets on Instagram. It's Dr. Molly, Burrets. Again, that's Dr. Molly Burrets. And you can find her on Instagram at Dr. Molly Burrets. And she has a podcast coming out soon, which I'm really excited about. And I'll keep you guys posted.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Enjoy this one and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, it's interesting cellulite's almost like kind of like I don't know if this feels true, but it's like, it feels a little bit for me in the same kind of texture of like acne, where it's like, you know, a part that makes you feel ashamed and kind of makes you want to hide aspects of you and kind of like you, it's perceived as like scarlet letter of you.
It's shameful.
Yes.
It's shameful. And you can be pretty, but if you have acne or if you're pretty and you have cellulite, then it's like, you're not pretty anymore.
What is like this? What is cellulite even?
It's just, it's where like there are like fibrous bands under the skin and the fat that's there gets pushed like almost like a weave. It gets like pushed through the fibrous, through the fibrous bands so it looks bumpy.
Okay.
So it's just fat with a combination of like these long fibrous bands. And so the fat gets like pushed in between them and looks bumpy. And that's all it is. There's like,
do you with that in your body, like to be someone that's so like processed and, you know, intelligent and in this work, like what comes up for you when you think about that?
Well, it starts for me with shame because the time that I was developing a sense of myself as a sexual person and as an attractive person as a teenager, that's the time when I discovered I had cellulite.
Wow.
And kind of similar, I remember going on into like a department store and trying on swimsuits. And it was the first time that I had been in front of a 3-way mirror. So it was the first time I saw the back of my body. And it was like a shock because I didn't know that that was there. And, you know, then I was burdened by this truth of what I truly look like. And then I remember it was like springtime. That's why I was trying on swimsuits. And there were, you know, like pool parties and everything at the end of the school year. And I didn't want to go to the pool parties. I didn't want to be in a swimsuit around all my friends. I definitely didn't want my boyfriend to see me in a swimsuit. And I think there's like a special kind of shame that comes with, I look okay if I have my clothes on. But if you really saw me, if you really knew what I looked like, you would find me repulsive. And so it came along with this like sort of hidden secret thing that it was underscored a lot of things in my life. That's like what you see on the surface is okay. But if you really knew what I was working with, you wouldn't accept me. So in college on our dormitory doors, we had these dry erase whiteboards. And I remember one morning after like, it was like a, you know, Sunday morning, I woke up and some girls had written on my whiteboard something about my cellulite and had drawn a picture of me on my dry erase board. And I mean, it's 25 years later and I still think about that. So things like that can really just fundamentally alter how you feel and think about yourself because it confirmed something about me that I believed to be true, which was that I wasn't beautiful. And then these women came along and told me, yes, you're right, that's true. And so I just kept that for a really, really long time.
That's such an, you know, gosh, there's a few different paths I want to go down. And I'm thinking of two. The first is related to the feeling of having something you're hiding, of being like, you know, oh, I'm so beautiful or I am so attractive. But then it's like, but then there is kind of like that, oh, but you can't get too close, like the secret. And this is even, I relate this to my family. So my family where I grew up in Ohio. So my family was really Ohio rich, but all the money that we had was from my grandpa. My dad lost his job a lot. Like so it was something where everyone was like, oh, she's so rich. But I'm like, oh, you don't know the truth. My parents fight about money. My dad's so it was this very shamey of like feeling proud.
Yes.
You know, where
on
you're
the
like,
outside, it looks good.
And then on the inside, you know the truth. And there's aspects of that have seeped into other beliefs of mine of like, oh, you just don't know the truth of it. But there's something that I wanted to talk about because I think this is really relevant. And I haven't explored this yet on the show or just in general, but the aspect of when you, as a woman, you realize that you're like a sexual being, and then you also realize your beauty, and you also realize the power, and then you also feel shame. Like, can you talk about that experience from your perspective, both in your personal and then just seeing in your work of like, what's that like? Because there's so many women listening that are like, my perception of me being a sexual being feels very layered.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I was actually just talking with my therapist about this yesterday.
Stop. I'm psychic, actually.
Okay.
I am.
I
really.
believe it. I believe it.
I'm like, this is actually a session 2.
Yeah.
I'm like, tell me more, doctor.
I was talking about how I was remarking how when I was little, the biggest, most watershed experiences of my life that really created my self-image and that I considered to be like monumental events were all things that had nothing to do with what I looked like. So one of them was in the 2nd grade. I got cast as the lead in our school play. And it wasn't I played Lady Liberty. I played the Statue of Liberty. It wasn't a part that had anything to do with being attractive. It wasn't about what I looked like. It was truly about what my skill set was.
Which was this.
Yeah.
You're like killer arms.
Yeah. And I was like such a good little performer and I memorized all my lines and I was a great public speaker. Like even as a kid, I was good at those things. But the older I got, the more experiences I had that tied my self-worth to my appearance. Or I at least internalized the message that something I got was a result of my appearance rather than my innate skill or talent or soul, right? And being attractive or people thinking that you're attractive comes with a lot of power. Except the other side of the coin is always fear, because attractiveness is 1, so subjective, and 2, so ephemeral. Like what society considers beautiful, you will never stay that way. You will always lose it. So the way that young women get power is through the experience sometimes of being attractive, but it's not true power because we are always afraid of losing it. And in fact, that's a key part of aging that I talk about when I work with women who are my age, sometimes younger, sometimes older, is like, who am I now that society views me differently as a result of my aging? I had all this power because of my attractiveness. But it's, I think, a very feeble form of power because it requires, 1, how others view us to dictate our power. And 2, it's very ephemeral. Mm-hmm. It doesn't last. Mm-hmm. It changes. And so if you go through your life relying on that as your source of power, you're going to have to contend with the loss of that at some point. Mm-hmm. And this is what happens to women is that more and more, the older that they get, they are affirmed or disaffirmed for what they look like. And so it really sets us up to be in this lose-lose game of if you are attractive, it's a feeble power because you're going to lose it and you better hang on to it and you better spend all your money and all your time maintaining it. And if you're not attractive, you don't have that power in the first place.
And there's levels, you know, like you reach a level, then you're like, oh, the next one. How am I going to be even more attractive or even more beautiful? Yeah, it's been, you know, I've been thinking about this quite a bit because I, you know, grew up, I was not attractive. And then one summer I became attractive. And then that was all at this one time, very amazing for me and men, but also horrible for me and women. And then I sort of was, and then lost it for a while, and then had this like glow up post divorce. And, you know, I was looking outside my window one day and I just was like, God was like, you can't, this is not something you can hold on to. Like I just had the realization like of my addiction almost of it, like being like, oh, I have like, this is a non-negotiable for living. Baseline living has to be attractive. Like whatever I do beyond that is great. Like if I have purpose, if I show up in the world, if I'm loving, but the baseline of being attractive must be there or else.
Yes, the non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. I think about that with showing up online. Like I feel very authentic. I feel like I'm myself, but I do in my deepest truth. And I've said this before, it's like whatever I do at first, the baseline of attractive has to be there. So if I'm silly or goofy or imperfect, that's okay. But attractive has to be there. And I wish that wasn't true. I have emotion there when I think about it. I wish that wasn't true, but it feels like such a tight, it feels like such a tight leash for some people, do you feel like, is that from childhood and your parents? Because I think I can see aspects of my parents where that's from. Do you think that's from society? Where do you think this comes from?
I think, you know, from everywhere. Am I allowed to say that? From everywhere. This is the water that we're swimming in as women in our culture.
I think it's getting worse too.
I do too. I do too. Because if you look at movie stars from the 90s, they were normal, attractive people. They didn't have plastic surgery. They were just like normal people that were pretty. Now, you cannot be a movie star without having plastic surgery.
100%.
You absolutely cannot. Everybody has had everything done and it's become the norm. It's become so accessible to people with money that you have to do it all and that you won't get noticed on a larger scale if you don't. And it's really sick. And so it's the water that we're swimming in. It's the messages we receive when we're kids, when we're adolescents. For me, I remember just like, there were 4 kids in my family growing up, and there were a lot of challenges in my home, and my parents worked very, very hard, and life was a struggle. Everything was a struggle. We just had a lot to contend with. And for me, the way I got attention, the way I got paid attention to sort of became about 2 things. It became about having accomplishments. And then gradually, as I got older in life, I realized I could get paid attention to if I was pretty. And that sort of just developed over time. And so I got really locked into the experience of being successful and being attractive. And it's like a prison of your own making.
It is. I think about it too. You know, I think that's the experience I was having where I was like, whoa, being attractive is such a, you know, and whatever, people could think I'm attractive or not, but there's an aura and energy of a life that I've lived of being an attractive person, we'll say. And I was like, dang, it's such a gift. And then it is such a prison. And I was like, I almost was like, wow, what a relief it would be. And honestly, I don't know, this is going to sound to people, but my experience on earth would be so radically different if I wasn't always clocking if people thought I was attractive or not. And like having a liberation of like, I'm going to go in and be who I am as a person. Rather than like this initial, like I was even thinking about stories that I do on my page, on my Instagram. Obviously looks goes into the Instagram world, you know, kind of that pipeline of like looks, attractiveness, and then perceived in the world. I was doing stories and I was doing stories that were like deep and profound in my own sense. And people were like, oh, what is your lip gloss? You look so beautiful. Commenting on my looks, which is fine, obviously. But the reason why is because there's a part of my aura that's wanting that to be the first thing that gets in. And I'm really working on the energetics of what is it to be like where people are seeing me and they're hearing what I'm saying rather than going through the filter that I'm making them go through of my looks.
Wow. That's really profound. And it's a vulnerable place to put yourself if you've always sort of used your appearance as a way to cope and survive in the world.
For sure.
You know? And I also think about anything that we use to cope and survive in the world. For me, it's mostly been my ambition or success, sometimes my attractiveness. Anytime we're using that to cope or survive, there's a fear of losing it. And so it's like you always have to contend with the inner critic that's saying you're not successful enough or you're not attractive enough because you're using those worldly things to feel safe. And so inherently, you're going to baseline feel unsafe without them. And I think always afraid that it's never going to be enough.
Totally. So someone listening might understand why the looks applies to that. Why does ambition and why would that be a part of that category?
Because it signals to the outside world, which then gets reflected back to you, that you are worthy, important, and enough. If you have successes, if you have achievements, the outside world typically recognizes them. You get praise and validation for that. And then it gives you a message that I'm good enough. But if you are relying upon your successes to translate that into the message, I'm good enough, it's always going to feel like a prison, like it's never enough. You have to keep doing it in order to be enough. You can't take a break. You can't slow down. You can't fail. You can't chill. You can't rest and relax because the belief that you are good enough is contingent upon your performance.
Do you feel like they're like thinking about how this is created besides the water that we swim in? Do you feel like also there's the experience of a child or teen that's sort of going through life and then clocking what can happen when they're attractive or when they're successful and then sort of becoming that as the way that they seek to feel safe, or they understand, they have the misunderstanding that that's the way to safety?
Yeah. And I know that that's exactly the case for me. I know that, you know, when it was hard to get attention and care in my home, I would bring home my spelling test that I got 102 on and put it with a magnet on the fridge and tell my mom and dad, look, I got the bonus points too. I remember that when like my siblings maybe they were getting in trouble at school or they were having a problem. I remember specifically wanting my parents to feel like they were good parents. And so if I did a good job at school and I got the lead in the play and I got hundreds on my tests, that was proof that my parents were good parents. And so, and it also had this added benefit of I got attention, like, great job, Molly. You know, wow, Molly got another 100. And so I learned that I could stabilize our family dynamic and feel good about myself and get attention, stand out in a chaotic situation by performing well. So that's how it was for me. And I think there are as many different iterations of that for people as there are people.
It's interesting. The looks, I know I'm double clicking a lot on the looks, but I've really never processed this. So
I think it's really important.
Yeah, it's so helpful.
Let's keep talking about it.
I think it's so helpful for just women too, because it's like we're so pressured to look a certain way and all of these things. I want to talk about the relationship between that and like the sexuality and like realizing that you're like a sexual being and that men are interested in you sexually. And it's interesting because even when I talk about that, I kind of go like sideways back to the left, because there's a predator prey feeling, or when you've had sexual trauma, you know, you are now confused. You're like, I should look attractive and I like to look attractive, but also I'm getting attention in a way that feels a little off and uncomfortable. And I think a lot of women have had that experience where they're like, this is good, is it?
Yeah.
Type of thing. So can you talk about that sort of journey of stepping into your power as a woman and realizing you're a beautiful sexual being, and then also having the experience of feeling like that's wrong or dangerous?
Yes. And this is, again, we get put into this catch-22 where we can never fully be safe as women. You have to be beautiful to feel safe in the world and to feel accepted. But if you're beautiful, you're going to be unsafe in the world because you're going to be a target for men, right?
So real.
You have to be beautiful to get chosen by a man. But if you are beautiful, you are likely also to be the victim of a man who sets his sights on you and takes ownership you in a way that is not his to take.
And only likes you for that.
Right. So it's like, there's no winning this game. It's really unfair to women that we have to be beautiful and yet we suffer from being beautiful. And there's this concept that I want to tell the listeners about, which is called a reflected sense of self. And a reflected sense of self is when you only see yourself through the eyes of someone else. So you can only see yourself in this situation. You can only really see yourself through the eyes of a man and what a man must think of you. And when you look in the mirror, it's like there's a filter where you're not actually seeing what you're seeing. You're seeing what you imagine a man is seeing. And you're judging yourself and maintaining some kind of standard based on that. And a reflected sense of self is, of course, such an unstable sense of self. Because one, there's a degree of separation. It's not what we're actually seeing. So we have to like travel far to get to it, which makes it a weird and windy road. What do they actually see when they look at me, you know? And it's also unstable because what other people see when they look at you is, first of all, so different from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
They're projecting all of their own experiences onto you, and they see you through a filter. And, it just, people, what they see in you can change at any time. So if your idea of who you are is based on what other people see when they look at you, a reflected sense of self, that's a very shaky place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that a lot in people who are beautiful and get validation from being beautiful and then feel like they have to keep being beautiful so other people see them that way.
Mm-hmm.
And in people who are highly accomplished, who get a lot of validation from their accomplishments and then feel like, well, that's why people see me as good enough. And so I have to keep doing those things.
I'm glad I had a long, ugly phase so I could develop a personality not based on that. But in the, the reflective sense of self, almost in the real-time way, I've done this with my, again, I literally don't talk about Instagram this much, but my Instagram stories where you put something out because of the perception you think it's going to give other people, where you're like, how is this going to make a man look at me, feel about me? Like,
yeah,
it's almost the whole thing is a reflected sense of self.
That's right.
Developing a storyline and a persona based on what you perceive others to think of you.
Yes.
I also know, I'm beautiful. I feel beautiful, but I'm friends with some of the most beautiful women in the world. And I also know that it's like a burden and it's like an annoyance and it's like it's another entity in the room. Yeah. It is. It truly is, dude. I'm like, how do you, like, literally, I'm exhausted. I'm like, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to be that beautiful. Like, it's a whole entity and an experience. And people, the whole time they're talking to you, are thinking about your looks and are clocking your looks. And, it's just so much like psychic debris around it and so much exhaustion around it that it would feel lonely a bit because you'd almost feel like, do people see me for me? Like, where can I feel respite from this?
Yeah.
I know this is a psychotic thing to say, but it's true.
No, I think it's really true. It's like you said, it's a whole other entity in the room.
Yeah.
And it's like showing up everywhere in your life wearing a costume, but it's not a Halloween party. Nobody else is in costume, but you are. Not because you put one on, but just because of how people see you. They're like evaluating your costume and looking at your costume and thinking about your costume and envying your costume and wishing they could have that costume. And I don't know, just in general, really making you an object.
Yeah.
So that you are no longer a person, but you're an object of people's projections and fantasies.
I was away with my my boyfriend recently, and he's insanely gorgeous. He's so attractive. And we were walking in the city and, he's kind of like clocking and he's aware of people looking at him or us or whatever. And he was like, oh, did you see these people like da 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 da? I'm like, I hope you know that I literally, every part of my antenna is off. I do not look at clock. I cannot be making eye contact. I cannot be clocking. I cannot be looking at anyone else because I don't want to be a part of whatever psychic conversation they're having about me potentially. Whether it's she's ugly, she sucks, cool outfit, pretty, not. Like, I literally have learned that I'm just like, I'm so like just attuned to the person that I'm with. And that's the only energy that I can be with because it's exhausting. I remember when I was younger, just being like, just like walking around, looking at everyone, looking at me, and whatever they thought was like so important to me. And it's felt so much better and more peaceful to just be like, dude, I can't even wonder what people are thinking about me.
Yeah.
Like, it's so exhausting. I also think too, the experience of being an attractive man is very interesting because women, I'd say for both, it's interesting because sometimes people hate you for it. Sometimes people love you for it. Sometimes people want to be around you for it. Sometimes they don't want to be around you for it. Sometimes they want it. Sometimes, it's like, it's so many reactions that you can't even really predict at all. But what I've seen is just so much like, almost like objectification in the other way. And then also a little bit of like, he's no longer in this, but like almost like an addiction that he's had to get out of like, oh, everywhere I go, everyone looks at me. Everywhere I go, people talk to me. Everywhere I go,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's an addiction that you don't want to let go of.
Right. It's
'Cause
very
fun.
reinforcing.
Very reinforcing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be in that process. So when we think about social media and sort of where culture and society is going, for the women in our audience, like, what would you say to them? Like, what would you want them to remember?
Here's where I am with it, because I am also a woman and living in this world. I am really trying to see myself for the whole of who I am. That I think for most of my life, I would look in the mirror and I would see about 10% of who I am, which is the outer shell and what I look like. And then my self-concept would be based on that, either positive or negative. And now for me, looking in the mirror is really about trying to see much, much more of who I am. So I'm not focusing on my appearance. I might be focusing on whether my shirt is straight or tucked in or whatever, but I'm trying really hard to have that not be the time that I start evaluating myself, but really looking at the whole of who I am, what I contribute to this world and all of my different roles. Because you are so much more than what you look like. And it's so insulting to your spirit and to your soul to denigrate yourself to being considered for that much of what actually makes you you. And so it's just about a more intentional focus on all the things that make me me. And it's not that I don't ever have insecurities about my appearance anymore or that it isn't important to me, but I'm done making it the most important thing.
How would someone know that it is the most important thing to them? Like if someone's listening, they're like, I don't even really know where it is on my values.
How you know whether you value something is how much time you spend on it, how much money you spend on it, and how much emotion or effort you spend on it. So it's about what you think about, it's about what you feel about, and it's where you invest. Okay? So think about your money, your feelings, and your time. Where do you spend those? If you're spending those on your appearance, which many of us do, then you are treating it like it's a high value in your life. If you look at your budget and you've got X percentage of dollars that you are allocating to what you look like, that indicates that that's a value for you. Even if you wouldn't put it down on a piece of paper, you are behaving like you highly value it because you're putting your time there, your emotions there, and your money there. So I think you do an inventory. How much do I think about this? How much do I feel about this? How much do I spend on this? And how much time am I spending with my appearance every day?
In your practice and in your work, working with men, do you perceive that men, is it because women historically have been valued for their looks and then we're running with that and then it's being exacerbated with social media? Do you perceive men to think about it? What's been your experience?
Not nearly to the degree that women do, because they aren't valued for their appearance nearly as much as women are. I think men are sort of more focused. The way they get power is more through money and through social status, which isn't to say that men don't get insecure about their appearance. They absolutely do. But in my experience, it's not running the show for men the way it really is for women, especially with social media. Social media takes a person and takes a picture of them or a video of them, which turns them into an object. You are no longer your person. You are an object on a screen for consumption. And that is a very transformative role that social media plays in our lives. because it takes us from being people and turns us into objects.
Like commodities. I have my, I'm not perfect, but I think what helped me the most, because I was even more focused on looks before, was finding purpose. Where I was like, oh, like it's not like it was. And I see younger women like this, like in the early 20s. And it's like the early 20 obsession with looks is so great, because for a lot of them, it's like they don't know what their purpose is in life. They haven't discovered a them outside of just, having my to-do list was like, go tanning, shave my legs, go work out. It was all looks, you know what I mean? It was like all looks based. And now it's so much more about purpose. And I think that's been like the saving grace to having better relationship with it, because that helps me know that there's value beyond what I look like. There's value to my soul and to like the feeling of my soul. And also with beauty, it is interesting. And I don't know if you've had this experience or not, but there is a texture and a experience that you can have with someone's energy and being that just supersedes whatever they look like.
Absolutely.
That's why with some people, the longer you know them and the better you get to know them, quite literally, the more attractive they become.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny. I see it when I like watch reality TV shows. In the beginning, you can see someone is maybe not so attractive, but as the show goes on and you develop a relationship with them, like a parasocial relationship with them, they're more attractive to you.
Wow.
And it's just like, it's evidence-based. It happens. So the truth of the matter is that the things that connect us as human beings, that's the real glue.
Yeah.
And it changes how we see each other. That's why couples who have been together for 50 years still find each other attractive. Because, if you were just walking down the street, you might not find a 75 or 80-year-old man attractive. But if you were married to him for 50 years, we still want to be attracted to our partners. So how does that happen? How do we stay attracted when we lose what society calls attractive,
Yeah.
Well, it's because we're so glued to someone that we're seeing them for who they really are.
Right.
So they stay attractive to us.
Wow. Yeah, because it's interesting you bring that up too. So I've been having this experience where I'm like, I haven't, a lot of times in life, I'm able to speak about what I speak about and believe what I believe because I've been through the experience. So it's like embodied belief.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. But also I'm at the point where I kind of need to believe things that are not my embodied wisdom yet. Example, believing that I could be in a relationship for 50 years that was deeper than at the beginning. And I'm having a hard time with it. So this is personal.
Yeah.
But how would you help someone understand to believe that? That you could love someone more with time?
Well, first of all, I know that you know about TBM, right?
My girl.
Yeah. I think look for the expanders in your life who are showing you that a relationship where people are more in love than when they first got married is possible. I have that in my life. I never thought I would have that. I always had the belief system that it burns hot and heavy in the beginning and then it fades off over time. And how on earth do you stay in love and continue to be attracted to and want to have sex with the same person for decades? That's what I always thought. And what I have learned is that going through difficult experiences in life and seeing my husband show up for me and me show up for him in ways that we never could have predicted, in things that we were called to that we never wanted, we never would have chosen, but here we are and we have to deal with this. That experience makes me love him so much more for how he's shown up for me, for how I've shown up for him, for the muddy waters that we have trudged through together, for the hard things that we've done together, parenthood, everything that's hard that comes along with that. Like for me, going through complicated, hard things together makes me love him so much more because I start seeing all these different colors and iterations of him that are so beautiful to me.
watching him age makes me love him so much more, because I see, when I got together with him, he was 22. He's 40 now. And I have seen him grow into such a different person than he was. And that's so beautiful. I love to watch that. I love to see him fail and then have to get up again and keep going. And it makes me love him more. He goes through hard things that he keeps overcoming for our family and shows up. First, he showed up for me as a husband, and he changed my relationship with my own attachment style. Then he showed up as a father, and I see what he does for our kids. He just continues to blow my mind with how he goes through hard things and continues to show up for himself and others. Like, that's what makes me love him more and more and more. And
is that the same experience for men, where they love women more when they do that too?
I think he would say the same thing about me. I read like birthday cards that he's written to me. And he's like, I love you because you did this. Like, I see how strong you are because you went through this. You know, we went through infertility and IVF treatments to have our second child. It was so hard. It was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through. And he's like, what I saw you persevere through for our family to get to where we are now, he's like, it makes me love you so much more, because just life keeps calling us to do harder and harder things. I always thought that life would get easier as I got older, because I would have more agency. I would have more control. In childhood, it was like, I didn't have any control. I was in the whirlpool, and I was just going to be taken wherever the water took me. And so I thought, I want to grow up so that I can have control and I can have agency and I can control my destiny, and that will be easier.
Yeah.
And I do have more control. I do have more agency, but life is not easier, because the tests that keep coming our way get harder and harder, and you level up and you level up, and it demands more of us.
Yeah.
So I think when you're in a relationship with the right person, you level up together and you look at the landscape of where you came from and you're like, damn, I love you so much more because we did all that.
Tell me about the healing of attachment styles, because I feel like I've been able to heal parts of my attachment prompted by relationship pain, but then I healed it on my own. Does that make sense? So how did you do it in relationship?
First of all, I just give all respect to you for doing that on your own.
Yeah.
Because it's a relational problem that is very hard to solve yourself.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I feel like maybe there's a part of me that's a little bit, so it's like it was an anxious that comes up, but then there's the avoidant part that's like, we can do this on our own a little bit. That's like, coming back home to myself, doing a lot of parts work is what I practice, but continue.
Yeah. I think I really made my husband's life hell in the beginning of our relationship, because I came in with a mindset that people you love leave you.
Yeah.
And that this is going to end in heartbreak. And I tested him at every turn. I realize now that I was just putting him through the ringer to see if he was going to really stick around. And I'm so grateful that he was self-aware enough and saw me clearly enough to know that that was happening and was willing to stick with me through it. Like I remember he said to me early on in our dating, it was like, one of the many times that I tried to break up with him. And he said, one thing about me, Molly, that I want to tell you is that I will go down with a sinking ship for you. And in this particular relationship with my particular attachment style, which was so anxious, I needed to know that he wasn't going to leave me. And he demonstrated it over and over and over again until finally something clicked for me that I was like, I keep pushing away this person who is telling me they're not going to leave. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I keep pushing him away, I will get the familiar answer that I've been looking for, which is that he's going to leave me. Right. But he stuck around long enough for me to realize that that was happening and that he still hadn't left. And something switched in me that I I no longer feel afraid of him leaving me. I don't worry that he's going to cheat on me. I don't worry that he's going to leave me. I just don't anymore. And in previous relationships, I always felt that way. I always felt insecure.
Yeah, this is very relevant for me. I feel like I think I do the dance of avoidant anxious. So I'm avoidant until I'm not. And then that part comes through that like is like, there's like a moment that happens that gets triggered where it's like, I can like, that little girl is out where she's like, oh no, I'm in this, and I felt it very much in connection. Like even recently I was like, oh fuck, like I am fucking in it and attached. And it's brought joy and amazingness in person.
Mm-hmm.
And then so much anxiety when I'm not in person. And it's like, it's making me emotional because it's been exhausting a little bit.
I bet.
Because I haven't felt like this in so long, like where I cared and where I was like in love and just like, but then it's like the flip comes this and it's just like, it just feels exhausting. And it's like, I'll be like walking and my thoughts will be like, okay, when I break up with him, I'm going to say this. And then he's going to do this. And then I'll dump him this way. And I'm just like planning my escape.
You're preparing yourself.
Preparing. Like keep planning my escape, preparing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't want to do that. It's like, yeah, it's just exhausting.
Well, what I hear you saying is that when we're together, I feel safe.
Yes.
That's really important. And that's a lot of progress. Stay with that.
True.
Don't forget that you have that.
Yeah.
But when there's separation, that's when I feel unsafe.
Yes.
Right? So that seems very normal to me.
Yeah.
When a variable, a scary variable gets injected, that's when your brain has the space to say, oh my God, what if? And the worry machine begins.
True.
That separation opens a portal for you to spiral.
Yes.
Okay. So one, I think you have a lot of good here because you're able to find safety when you're with him. And then it becomes about how do you take care of yourself when there's separation and remind yourself that that separation is strictly physical. It's just physical space.
Yeah.
The connection that you have is the same, but your brain tricks you into thinking that physical space means real distance.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And this makes complete sense to me. You're in the middle of doing the work. I always I think that love and fear are so closely related. Like you cannot have love without fear because anybody who has a beating human heart, when they have something that they love, is afraid to lose it. You cannot escape fear when you're in love, whether it's the love for your family, your children, your partner. Fear becomes something you have to let into your life. And the way I cope is through introducing a third variable, because it's not just love and fear in your life. When you introduce a third party into the room, that's how you can survive. And the third party is courage. The third party is courage. Because love is such a vulnerable experience, you can only tolerate it if you have courage. And in those moments when you're without him and the worry machine begins, I would say to myself, if courage were in the room with me, what would it tell me? Or if I knew that this was just physical distance And all the practices I have about my soul's work tell me that our souls are still together. If I knew that this was just physical distance, what would I do with myself? If courage were in the room and this were just physical distance, not real distance, what would I do? There's a children's book called The Invisible String that I read to my son when he has some separation anxiety. And it talks about how it's great to read to your kids when they're like going off to school or they're going to go to a sleepover for the first time. And it talks about how between people who love each other, there's an invisible string between you and me that connects us, that goes as far as outer space. It even connects us when somebody dies. There's still an invisible string. And all the invisible string is a really clever way of talking about a secure attachment. And so I encourage I tell my son when he leaves for school in the morning, don't forget the invisible string, you know, and you have that with your partner, the invisible string, but you forget. Remind yourself, bring courage into the room.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting experience because it's like, I think what also has been heartbreaking is like, when you're younger, you just fall in love without abandon, with like reckless abandon, you know? And I'm like, what a bummer that I'm not going to have that experience of like falling in love in that way, where it's like before, like my first love, it was just like free falling. You're like, oh, this is it, you know, da-da-da-da. And then at a point you've been in relationships, you've had your heart broken, you've kind of seen what happens.
Yeah.
And then so you approach it so much more guarded.
Yeah.
And just so the fear is an equal to the love.
Yes.
Where before it's the love is like 50 times.
Yeah.
There's no fear.
Yeah.
And that just, it bums me out.
It does. Yeah.
I'm like, what a bummer about the human experience. And I'm grateful to have loved people and had the experience of love. But I'm like, damn, I'm like never going to have that. But usually with my, you know, usually when I'm going through something, I can kind of find the part and work with the part. You know, I can be like, okay, cool. Like I got it. I see the part. But this one has just been like so loud. I'm just like, I find her and then I think I get scared of her. Of her voice of like, okay, we're going to leave and we're going to do this. And when he does this, we're going to do this. And because I think I don't fully trust, I trust him in the connection. He's been insanely incredible, but I still am like, I don't fully trust, I guess, yet.
Do you not fully trust yourself that you would be okay if you lost him?
It is. That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's that. I think I was married and now I'm divorced. We were together 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think there's also that where you're like, and there's nothing there as far as romantic interest or anything. Right. But, you know, when you have the perception that this is it, and then it's not, you're like, is this it? You know what I mean?
Yes. Your whole perspective is like, oh my God, like what world am I living in?
Yeah.
And I know a little bit about your story because I'm a big fan of you.
Oh, I love you.
And, you know, what occurs to me is that in that relationship, you had to leave to save yourself.
Yeah.
So that blueprint is there.
Yeah.
I have to leave to save myself.
Oh, that's such a good one. That's such a good one.
And it was true for that relationship.
Yeah.
So now you have this blueprint and you live in a different house, metaphorically and physically.
Literally.
And you're like, I'm going to take this blueprint for my old house and put it on my new house. Uh-oh, I can't build a door right there. It doesn't fit. Because the blueprint for that relationship, which fit and was true for that relationship, you're now taking to this new one as if it's the right blueprint. You're like, oh, I have to leave to save myself. For that relationship, yes. For this relationship, maybe not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a good one. Because it is like every time when I kind of have the fantasy of like, okay, this is, you know, whatever of the leaving, it is like I feel empowered and I feel in control. I think also I forgot about losing control. When I've been single, I'm like, I'm flying high because I have full control of my life, of my emotions, of my experience, of my path. And I want to build a life with someone and lose some of that control. But then it's like even, you know, this weekend we were together and there was like a moment when we first got together where I felt there was like so much. And then there was a moment of dip in the energy and I was still hyper vigilant.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, cause I felt the energy dip. He was in the shower. Like energy's dipped. Yeah. And I was like, alarm bells are off.
Right.
Like, right. What are we got? I was like, what kind of monkey suit do I got to put on to perform?
Yeah.
Like make everybody laugh and like,
oh yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I didn't believe, I was just so bummed and I'm still doing that, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, I was like, I think it's like, what's sad for me is that I felt like when I'm single, I didn't have as much mirror to test my learnings. And then when you're in a relationship, it's like, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that. I don't attune to anybody. I'm not hypervigilant. Da, 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 da. And then it's like,
yeah, when I'm alone.
Yeah, literally, literally. When it's just my cats.
Right.
But it's like, then when you're with someone that you love, you're like, oh, and I've known this on the mental level.
Yeah. But learning it in the heart space is so different.
Dude. And then I was just like, that was with my ex being so hypervigilant. And I'm like, and then there's that part that comes back. And she's like, well, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the hypervigilant. I don't want to be changing my mood for someone else. Like, I'm just at shock at like how much has come up for me.
Yeah.
Of fear.
Well, that shows me that it's a really important relationship because it's bringing up the mirror. Does he know this part of you? Yeah. So you can have this conversation with him.
He's a bust.
Yeah. And he can soothe you. And that's so important. That's so important. We have this idea that we should be able to do it all ourselves. And you've done work yourself. But I mean, I'm a couples therapist. This is what I really believe. The power that we have to heal each other through connection and relationship it's extraordinary. For him to be able to come in and soothe you and say, I've got you. You don't have to perform. We'll have ups and downs in energy. Yeah, there was a dip in energy. Doesn't change how much I love you. Just a dip in energy. We're going to feel close sometimes and further apart sometimes. And that's totally normal. It's like ocean waves. It doesn't change the ocean. That's what I would want him to be able to give you in those moments where you could come to him and be like, I'm doing that thing again.
Yes. Already done that this week.
Good.
It was
That's
like Monday.
so important.
And he just he's like, it's like a wall. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. It's just like it's like
the steadiness.
It's just literally like a wall. And it's just like so nice. And so and he doesn't even like clock it. Like, you know, he's like, what can I do to be more helpful?
Yeah.
You know, I'll do this then like is like so, and it's just, I think where I'm mindful and I think I'm curious your thoughts is I want to be able to use our container for that. What do you think about, there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to become addicted to his soothing. I want to also be able to self-soothe. So what's that balance?
Yeah, I love that. It's super easy. You just do both.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's going to be available to give it to you, and that's wonderful. Take it every time. But he's not always going to be available.
Yeah.
He might be out of reach by phone. He might be traveling. He might just not have the bandwidth. He might be in a bad mood, right? He might be dysregulated himself. There will be plenty of times in this relationship, which is going to be long and beautiful, that he's not going to be available to give you what you need. So life itself will present you with the balance, Krista. When he can, take it. That's what he's there for, in part. And you're also going to do this in ways for him so much that might not be obvious yet. And there's going to be lots of times where he can't. And you need to control and take care of, not control, you need to regulate your own nervous system with the things that you do that make you feel better. And to me, there's two categories of those things: self-soothing and self-care. Now, self-soothing, I think, are the things that are easy to do, like get a massage, go get a facial, get your nails done, like things where we get other people to take care of us. We usually pay money for them. I call that self-soothing. And that's wonderful if you have the resources for that. Self-care, I feel like, are the things that are hard to do, that we don't want to do, that actually take effort. And that is how we truly care for ourselves. Exercising, meditating, journaling, going to therapy, the things that require real effort, that we wake up in the morning and we think, I don't feel like XYZ. That is actual self-care. When we think about caring for other people, babies, elderly people, we don't think of care as easy. We think of it as a job. And believe me, it is. To take care of someone is a job. You don't wake up in the morning excited about, I can't wait to take care of. And that's how I think about self-care. It's the things that are hard to do, that require effort, that actually care for us. Self-soothing are the things that are easy to do and that also feel good. And we need to do both.
I think in my experience too, and I think this will also be relevant for a question for the audience, it's like, I would go for avoidant or unavailable men. And so then it would be like validated that I would be, it would be like I would do the dance. And then as soon as I would show them, it's so weird. It's almost like when my little girl comes out and she's like, all right, I like them, I'm going to attach, then they'd go away.
Yeah.
Would you say on a whole that there's more avoidant men and more anxious women? And why do you think that is?
Yes, I would say that is true. I can't speak to the whole of it, but the piece I can speak to is that there's a way in our culture that women get safety through men. The way in a patriarch, the way things are set up is you achieve safety by being with a man. And it's very, very real. Men do keep us safe in so many ways. How many times have you asked a man to walk you to your car at night because you needed to feel safe? What keeps us safe? A man, right? Now, there's also this other thing that I sometimes talk about, which is that, but who are they keeping us safe from?
Oh, that's very interesting.
Men are not keeping me safe from other women.
Wow.
I can tell you that. I'm not afraid of other women.
Wow.
I'm afraid of men. So there's this catch-22 in a way that we are set up to kind of always lose as women, that we need men for safety, and yet men are the people we need to be kept safe from. If that is not the definition of an anxious attachment style, I don't know what is. I need you, but I'm afraid of you. I need you to keep me safe, but I'm afraid of what happens when you leave. And what a responsibility it must be for men to have this role of constantly having to keep someone safe. My God, that's how I feel about my kids. I've got to keep them safe. And let me tell you, it's a freaking burden. I'm like up awake at night worrying about my kids' safety. It's a burden. And so how must it be for men that they have to live their lives keeping their women safe from other men? I might be avoidant too, if that burden were on me all the time, if someone were always looking for me. to keep them safe. I might want a little distance myself. So gosh, it's truly like, that's just my own personal opinion. I've never read that anywhere. I don't know that there's any science to support that, but that's what makes sense to me.
Wow. I think about for men, I'm just going to explain what I perceive, and maybe it will connect or make sense. I feel like for a lot of the generation of the men that exist now, and even the generation above, the women were not being emotionally supported by their husbands and sort of put the burden onto the sons. And I feel like a lot of sons have like mothers that are over-functioning, overburdeny, smothering, like devouring mother archetype.
Oh, preach.
And so I feel like a lot of them, because they had devouring mother, smothering mother, and then women had, I would be like, oh my God, my dad is amazing. He's very sick. He's an amazing man. But also, in my sort of healing of my mother wound and now looking at my father wound, I'm looking at it more clearly, where I'm like, oh, my dad's amazing, but he was never around. I'm like, love you, but like you were never around. And like, but I have you pedestaled as that. So
because you're amazing.
Yeah.
You find him amazing.
Exactly. So
the amazing person that you couldn't access.
Exactly. So then I'm like, avoidance. Amazing man I can't access, not always there. So, and I think a lot of women had that, where the fathers weren't really around.
Yeah.
They were around for a good time, to have fun on Sundays, for baseball, whatever, but they weren't really truly around and truly emotionally present.
And if they were around, they were often enraged.
Yes. My dad was docile. Rage converted into depression and sort of that. So I've been thinking about that, where I'm like, oh, I want that connection, because that's sort of how I saw connection with men.
Yeah.
In that way. So do you feel like that could be true of what's happening?
Well, totally. I think that's so smart, and I wouldn't have thought of it that way. And that makes a lot of sense to me in how you describe your relationship. You have this amazing man, but there's this template that he's not going to be available.
Wow.
This amazing man, but you're not going to get to access him. Of course you're afraid of that. That's been your experience, your foundational experience, that there will be something and someone amazing that you don't get to have.
I'm trying to think of, and I don't know if you remember this in your relationship as a memory, I'm trying to think of, even in my marriage, I had anxious at the beginning, and then secure, and then avoidant at the end. But there was the secure period, and I'm trying to think of when that turned to secure. Like when my anxious turned to secure, because I'm trying to control. I'm like, what's the moment? You know what I mean? That when I can get secure. Do you remember in your relationship where you became secure? What happened?
I called off my wedding.
With him? King.
Invitations had gone out. We were 6-7 weeks from the wedding, and I called off my own wedding. And I broke up with him and moved from Texas to Chicago to do my residency. So instead of me graduating from my PhD program, us moving from Texas together to go do my residency at Northwestern, I called off our wedding and went by myself. And I just knew that in the relationship, I wasn't going to feel on my wedding day like it was the happiest day of my life. I knew that there were issues that had not been contended with. And I knew that getting married without dealing with them was going to end in disaster. And I actually called off our wedding because I wanted to avoid getting a divorce from him, because I wanted to be with him for the rest of my life. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but I couldn't marry him under the current circumstances because I wasn't happy. There were things I was dissatisfied about, and I knew where it would end. And I wanted to give us the chance that we could really have the relationship that I was really, really looking for. And it required both of us to make some significant changes if it was going to ever come to be. So I called it off, and I said to myself, if it is meant to be, it will find me. And I jumped into the abyss, and I was terrified. I had no idea what was going to happen. And over the next 1.5 years, he and I both did the things that I knew needed to happen to determine whether we could be healthy in a relationship together. And it was individual work, and it had to be individual work. It just couldn't have happened in the context of the relationship. We were too reliant on each other, too dependent on each other. He was so young when we got together. I mean, I'm 7 years older than him. So he was 22. I was 29 when we met. He had some things he just had to grow up around, and so did I, frankly, even though I was a lot older.
He needed a prefrontal cortex development.
Yes, exactly. And we always stayed in touch, and we always still loved each other. And when we started visiting each other to just explore what is still there, it started clicking into place for me. And I no longer had all these fears about what's going to happen if he leaves me. It was just so evident to me that our commitment to each other was still strong, even though we weren't together. I had called off our wedding, and yet we both still wanted to spend our lives with one another. And I was like, wow, if I can completely end this relationship, move across the country without him, change the dynamic completely, and we are still both feeling like we want to spend the rest of our lives with each other, and we're doing what it takes to put ourselves in a healthier place to get there, that's all I need to know. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Mm-hmm. And we, by this time I was doing my postdoc in California, and he came to visit me. We went to Palm Springs together, and I proposed to him because I thought, he already proposed to me. I'm the one that called off our wedding. And I'm like, I'm going to propose to him because he deserves that. He deserves to feel truly, truly chosen and try to repair this wound that happened when I called it off. And I proposed to him, and I've never been so sure of anything in my life. Wow. And I would never encourage someone to get married if you're feeling ambivalent. Mm-hmm. Postpone it, call it off, jump into the abyss. You might still end up with that person, but do it in a way that you feel really convicted about. Marrying my husband was the best decision of my life, hands down. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to get there. It was not this linear road. It had major fractures along the way, and it doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. I think if anything, I went through what I needed to get to ensure that it was the right thing.
I think about that, go through hell to get to heaven a lot. Ooh. And I think about that because I done that in my actually another pattern of my relationships. And it's making me emotional because it's true. It's like, is the go through hell to get to heaven. The man always cheats at the beginning, and then, there's a big issue, or like, I think in every relationship I've had, there's been some sort of infidelity at the beginning. And then that sort of textures the relationship where I have the power. They're always like less powerful. I always have a card to play.
Oh, you're more powerful because
I got cheated on.
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. But then I'm, also not at the same time.
That's what I was thinking. There's the flip side of that coin too, right?
I I'm not, but then I'll make it that because then they're working the whole time, and no matter what,
get you back. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No matter what the fight is. And it's almost like my anxious attachment is exhibited through that. And then it's soothed more because I can pull the card a lot.
Yeah.
I know this is crazy.
No, first of all, this is not crazy. This is fascinating and beautiful that you would share this and that you know this about yourself.
I know.
Because it's it kind of reminds me of how we find power in beauty, but it's so feeble.
Yeah.
It's like a feeble power.
Yeah, totally.
It's rooted in your pain.
Yeah, totally. And it's rooted in me feeling like I'm better than them or something. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a power over like, because it's not kind in the way that it was. But so that's been.
Do you want to ultimately feel better than your partner? Feel better than them?
Yes.
You do. Because
I'm saying that not proud, everybody, by the way. But it's like, there's a part of me that wants to feel power over everyone.
I love this. Yes. My God.
Every room I go into, I'm like, I'm more powerful than all of you fuckers.
Yes. Power is very important to you. Of course. You want to feel better than because it makes you feel powerful.
Yes. It makes me feel like I'm like a worthy. Or like I'm something.
Right.
Special.
Yes. which of course tells you that if you need to feel that way, then you don't inherently feel that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? If anything that we need to feel, like I need to feel that way, shows us that we don't feel that way. I have to feel better than you because I don't feel equal to you. Like I have to feel like the best in the room.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I worry that I'm not.
Yeah, that's true. I worry that I'm average or normal or whatever. And I think that texturing of the pattern, I think the template of the beginning of relationships, I'm also working to break too, because I'm like, I also don't want that to be the template where I'm used to going through hell to get to heaven. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have that. I've seen that with my clients or other people where they have this perception that there has to be issues and trauma and strife to get to the place where they make the commitment. How could people not have that experience of having all the stuff happen to you like before, to get the commitment?
Totally. Here's the thing. I am convinced that every relationship goes through hell. If you stay in a relationship long enough, there will be something that you go through that is hell. For me and my relationship, it happened to happen before we got married. And maybe the average person would have said, let's just get married and we'll sort it out once we're married. Maybe the average person would have done that. Probably, you know. I just wasn't willing to do that because I knew on that day I wanted to feel so rooted. I didn't want to be walking down the aisle with the sense that something was off or that there was ambivalence or I was waiting for something to change, you know? And I just think that if you're going to be in a lifelong relationship with someone, it's not about if you go through hell. It's about when you go through hell. And some people go through that hell once they've been together for 20 years. Some people go through that hell once they've been together for 1 year, you know? Now, I do think that if you have a long history of good, connected time together, it makes it easier to go through the hard times because you've got all this foundation underneath you, you know? But also maybe there's a way in which it makes it harder because you're like, I gave you 20 years of my life and you're going to act this way? I just think what sucks about relationships is that 50% of whatever happens is completely out of our control.
Right.
You know, a minimum of 50% is completely out of our control. And all we can do is show up as we are and make decisions about what's right and best for us. So for me, I went through that hell with him. And for me, it brought me to a place where I had super clarity and knew what I wanted and that I was ready for it. But it could have easily gone the other way, where I could have said, you know what? If I'm going to feel this ambivalent and this conflicted, there's something else out there for me. So I don't think there's one right way. I know that before him, I was in relationships where I went through hell, and I'm so glad I'm not in that relationship. I'm so glad that I didn't marry that person. I'm so glad that person didn't marry me because that's how it actually went. That I wanted to marry him and he was like super ambivalent and had a commitment issue. And it's like, God, I wanted nothing more than to marry that man. And for the life of me, I could not understand why he wouldn't choose me. And I'm so fucking grateful that he didn't.
Wow. Yeah, the hindsight, that's just, because there's so many women and so many of us that are like, yep, knew that thing. It's so wild. Like I was thinking about that for my wedding and my marriage. I'm like, on the wedding day, I didn't know how to feel. And I didn't know, I thought we were in a moment of our relationship.
What kind of phase?
Like a hard phase?
One.
Yeah, I thought we were in a hard phase.
Okay.
We've been together 10 years. So it was like.
When you got married, you'd already been together 10 years? Okay.
So or maybe, I think not 8.5 or 9 at that point. So, because we're only married a short time. But I just was like, oh, I think we're just in it and I think it'll get better. So I think I thought it would get better.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, I would never want to feel that way.
Yeah.
Said with love and reverence, he wouldn't either. But it's like, I would never want to feel so disconnected. I felt so like it was about everyone else but us. Yeah. And about like the experience and everything like that. But it's so interesting because when you're in it, you don't know what you don't know.
That's right. That's right.
Like that's what's hard about relationships is you're like, you don't know what you don't know.
That's what's hard about life.
I know. It's so true.
And I'm like, that's why your book is so important. Because I know like people are going to read that from an author who has a vantage point that they don't, and there's no substitute for learning something yourself.
Yeah.
But there's also no substitute for having mentors around.
I know, 100%.
That are willing to be vulnerable and sharing their own mistakes and failures,
For a woman that's single now, just for like some closing thoughts, what would you kind of offer for her if she's looking to find someone and she's feeling a little discouraged?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I see so many beautiful, amazing women in my practice who are gorgeous, successful, wealthy, filled with self-confidence and self-love and earned every bit of it. And they have a difficult time finding a partner. One thing that I want to say is you have to get okay with the pool of people who can meet you where you're at getting smaller. Okay. Because the more you rise above, the more you take care of yourself and the more embodied you are, the smaller the pool of people will be who can meet you in that. So there's nothing wrong with you. I want to start there. Tell these women there's nothing wrong with you. It's that you are extraordinary and the pool is smaller. Okay. But then the second thing I say is, I know that this is like woo-woo and it's a little vague, but it truly is the best that I've gotten. I think it's worth something. You have to become everything that you're looking for in a partner.
I agree, 100%.
I approached all through my 20s. I was looking for people who had things and could bring things to me that I wanted. I want that guy who's really stable and secure. I want that guy with like a really good like family of origin that is like really solid and like all these things I wanted in a partner because I felt a deficit in myself. And the world just does not work that way. God doesn't work that way. The universe does not work that way. You are called here to find and fill for yourself, in yourself, everything that your heart desires. And from that place, you will be in the best position to pick a partner because you will no longer need them. You will be free to just be with them because you want them. You're not looking for them to meet some need, to fill some space, to bring something to your life because you have already done it. It's so freeing to be able to pick someone from a space of just wanting them rather than needing them. And what it does is it lets you slow down the clock because there's not so much urgency. You don't need it so much. You just really want it. You just really want it.
Yeah, that's been a trend is seeing that, when we were younger, I was like, there's a man around every corner. I don't know if it's because we're getting more picky and aware of what we want or because there's less available men. What do you feel?
Both.
Yeah.
You are getting more elevated and therefore there are fewer available men that can meet you.
That was another thing too about last thing. It's like, being younger and being like, you should be rich, you should be attractive, you should be successful, you should do all these things and being like, yes, that will give me more options. And it does in a way, but it also limits. You know what I mean? Like being better makes you more alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what it does is it makes their life more concrete. And so what's your place in it going to be? Like, how are you going to carve out your space? You know this, the older we get, the more set our lives become.
For sure. I mean, I've been like, hey, let's keep 2 bedrooms. No, for real. I'm like, there's a first floor that has your name on it, brother.
Totally. Yeah. We don't need to share a bathroom.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, I love my sleep. I want to do my thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, you become so much more set in your ways.
Yeah. And so you really have to ask yourself, like, is there space for me in this person's life?
Totally.
And ask yourself, is there space for someone in my life?
what's one quote you're really loving, or what's one thing you're really just loving right now as a resource or support?
Okay. I'm so glad you asked. This is such a good question. Okay. So there's a story about the Buddha where the Buddha goes and he sits on a mountaintop and his enemies are there and they start throwing arrows at him. And as he's looking at the arrows coming at him, he notices that they're all turning into flowers. And I never understood what this story meant, but now I do. The story is that when obstacles come your way, you will turn them into your life's greatest gifts. You will take your pain, you will take the arrows that are being thrown at you, and it is your job to turn them into flowers. And I love that right now. This past year has been one of the hardest years of my life. I went through a really serious medical crisis, and it has totally transformed who I am when it could have killed me. And I'm just like taking those arrows and turning them into flowers. And the way I'm doing it is getting up really close to them. Instead of like trying to like push it all away. I don't want to think about that trauma. I don't want to do that. I'm saddling up right there. Let me remember that experience. Let me journal about that experience. What does this have to teach me? You get up really, really close to those arrows coming at you and trust, and they're going to turn into flowers. That's how I feel about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for such a beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful. So grateful to God and for what I do, that I can like use this space for myself, you know? Thank you guys.
And then you're doing it for other people too. And that's like,
it's the best.
That's the purpose.
I know, I'm very grateful that this is my life. Where can people connect with you and find you?
I'm on Instagram at Dr. Molly Burrets. And please follow me there because that's where you're going to get information about. I'm launching my own podcast.
You are?
Yeah.
Happy to help. Whatever you need.
Thank you.
Whatever you need. And then also you do couples work, right?
I do. I see couples and women. I don't see individual men.
Oh, I love that.
But my practice is in Pasadena, and I see people in therapy who are residents of the state of California.
Cool. Okay. It's like I have a client, but they're in Texas. That would be good. Okay, guys. Thank you for listening to Almost 30. We love you. We'll see you on the next one. Bye. Thank you so much, Dr. Molly, for coming on the podcast. Would love if you guys shared this episode with a friend. It's so, so nourishing to have connection and community by sharing podcast episodes. And I really appreciate you guys holding space for me and always just listening to me open up about my stuff. And I appreciate my man for being open to me talking about my life.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you're subscribed to Almost 30. You can subscribe on YouTube. We are on video every single week, twice a week, baby. And if you would be so kind to write a review, it would mean the world to us.
Yeah, that means the world. And then also check out all of our partners that we talk about on our show. We actually use and love the products. Almost 30 Podcast on Instagram, Almost 30 Podcast on TikTok. You can find me on Instagram at It's Krista.
And I'm at Lindsay Simsick. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.
Bye.